Good afternoon. So we're going to brief on two separate issues, two separate news conferences, one not related to the other. First, we'll start with an update briefing on the kidnapping, carjacking, murder of Catherine Aguas Vivas. I will introduce formally two additional people that are involved in this investigation. And then I'll talk a little bit more about Jordan, who has been identified in the past by me at these news conferences as a strong person of interest. We're changing that and ultimately going to be charging him, but I'll get into those details in just one moment. The first person we'll introduce you to in this case is Kevin Justiano. He goes by the street name Kivo. Kivo came to our attention in the early stages of this investigation after we saw a red Toyota Corolla at the same apartment complex where our green Acura was dropped off. This is the apartment complex where that green Acura was towed away. We saw a red Toyota Corolla, and we used video surveillance at that location to get unique identifiers, the license plate of this car, and then ultimately came back to a relative of Kivo's. Kivo has been on our radar ever since that moment. This photograph is a photograph of him being arrested yesterday by the U.S. Marshals in Puerto Rico on unrelated charges to this case. But the charges, the federal charges that he's being arrested for, is possession of an automatic weapon and drug trafficking. Again, not related to this. He is in custody in Puerto Rico, and he will be extradited back to Central Florida to face charges in the Middle District of Florida federally for this, in addition to this investigation continuing on. Again, red Toyota Corolla that was seen at the location was registered to a relative of his. The red Toyota Corolla was seen picking up the occupants of the green Acura after what appeared to be the occupants cleaning that Acura up, wiping it down, doing other things. One of the images here, you can see clearly the Toyota Corolla. We believe that it was Kivo driving that Toyota Corolla, picking up the occupants of the green Acura at that time. In addition to that, I said we were still waiting for records to come in, and we're still waiting for a majority of the records that we have subpoenaed to come in. But one of the records that have now come in puts Kivo at the scene with Jordan of the kidnapping. So it is likely, more likely than not, and I believe it's Kivo driving the green Acura and Jordan holding the gun at the window, committing the kidnapping, and we'll get in more to that as we go on. Next person is Giovanni Hernandez. And Giovanni, as you know, was wanted out of Seminole County after we conducted a search warrant of his home. But because this case is complicated and there's a lot of moving parts, Giovanni was first introduced into this investigation because he was the last person that our decedent, Catherine, spoke to. We were able to identify that in two ways. One, we received a screenshot that was sent by the victim's brother. Victim's brother's name is Lewis. He sent us a screenshot of Giovanni's photograph and said, this is the last person that she spoke to. We were able to run that photograph through a program run out of the Seminole County Sheriff's Office called FACES. It's a facial recognition program, and it came back 98.6% likely that it was Giovanni with a Castleberry address. We believe our victim was on her way to meet Giovanni in Castleberry because the route that she was traveling from Homestead is a GPS route that's routed in and around the location where he was at. As a reminder, first we got a report from her husband, Miguel, that said that she was coming to Central Florida to visit family members. Additionally, we said that there was no family members that we could locate here. We later identified 2 family members that are in and around the area, but they were not expecting her to come up. Lewis, the brother, then gave a report to detectives that said she was on her way to Seminole County or the Central Florida area to deliver money and other stuff to a friend. We think that friend is Giovanni. So Giovanni was there. He was wanted out of Seminole County because we conducted a search warrant of his home. The search warrant revealed what appears to be a lot of property, likely stolen property, as well as fentanyl and other drugs and a gun. So he is now being held in Seminole County on trafficking fentanyl and possession of marijuana with the intent to distribute. That's his local charges here. Talk about Jordan again, Jordanish. So the last time we talked about Jordan, we said that he was, again, in custody on charges being held out of Puerto Rico. We later released the photograph. I identified him as a person of interest. We found that he had a connection to the purchase of the green Acura. We found a Facebook profile that had a number dating back to an Orange County arrest in 2019 with his phone number. We know that he purchased the Acura. He was then seen in his profile picture wearing what appears to be the same exact clothes as the person committing the crime of kidnapping. And now we've been able to put through evidence, through records, that his cell phone was at that location. So he now is going to be charged. Kivo is going to be charged federally with carjacking resulting in death. I've recently had a conversation with the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District, Roger Hamburg. They will be assuming a lot of these cases and the follow-up investigation with our assistance, because I think we now can look at the evidence and conclude that our victim, Catherine, was killed in Osceola County. That's where the shell casings were at. That's where the car was set on fire. We know that she was the victim of the carjacking here in Seminole County, and then they traveled through Orange County on the journey down there. But that part of the investigation is again ongoing. Again, Jordan Akivo charged with the federal charge of carjacking resulting in death, and these are some of the updates that we have now in the investigation.
Sheriff, real quick, not to interrupt, but I think you misidentified. You called Jordan and Kivo. They're not the same person, right?
Yep. Well, yep. You're right. So Jordan is Jordanish, and if I said that, I'm getting myself confused on some of these things. So let me go Kivo. Yep. Let me go Kivo. Is again, Kivo is Kevin Justiano. Kivo was the one that was arrested yesterday in Puerto Rico on the federal charges of possession of an automatic weapon and drug trafficking not related to this particular crime. He was wanted. Those are new charges. Those are federal charges. He will be extradited back here to the Middle District of Florida to face those charges federally. He was introduced to us because the red Toyota Corolla that picked up the 2 occupants of the green Acura moved into that vehicle. That vehicle was registered to a relative of his, and then his phone records put him at the scene of the carjacking, along with Jordan. Did I clear?
Jordan's charges, to be clear, are?
Jordan will be also charged federally with carjacking and then ultimately resulting in a murder or homicide or death. So again, I'll let the U.S. Attorney's Office will be looking at this again tomorrow to determine the most appropriate charges. And there's a lot of evidence that really hasn't even come back on this yet. And again, still relatively early stages of this, but a lot of good police work, taking an incredibly complicated and confusing situation with a lot of moving parts and putting it into play.
Sheriff, you said that Kivo picked up the occupants of the green Acura, so is there still somebody connected to this case that we don't know about?
Not that we're aware of. So we think that the driver, likely driver of the green Acura was Kivo, right? There could have been more people in that car. You clearly cannot see how many people are in that car. We know that the occupant that got out of the car holding the gun and committing the act of carjacking was Jordan. And again, as this investigation continues to evolve and we get records back, there may be others in that car. We just simply don't know. But we now have records that put the two at that location at the time, and they will face the federal charges for that. Again, carjacking resulting in death is the charges that they will face federally for that particular situation.
And have you come across a motive yet? And is Giovanni a part of that? Like, I think that's the part that...
Well, listen, this whole thing, I suspect from the beginning, everyone who's watched this has known it's about drugs and money, right? I mean, you look at the history, the background, and again, we'll find out more specific details as this investigation goes. But clearly, there's a drug and money nexus here, right? That's probably enough motive for people that are engaged in this type of behavior to kind of stay in business.
So for our purposes, can we refer to Giovanni, Jordanish, and Kivo all as suspects at this point? Or are they still...
Well, I'll say it like before: we think that they did it. We're going to charge them. We don't charge people unless we think that they did it. So, suspect, we're alleging that they're the ones responsible. We would not put charges on them if we did not believe that was the case. So.
Just to be clear on that end, Giovanni wasn't a part of that statement that you just made. To clarify, you don't believe he was involved in the actual kidnapping part?
Correct. I'm not going to speak specifically to the level of involvement because that will continue to evolve, come out. But he is not being charged with the kidnapping. We are only charging the two people that were out there. We think that Giovanni's connection was the last person that our victim spoke to. We think that she was probably on her way to Giovanni's home. But the act of the carjacking, the two that were there is what we're saying, Kivo and Jordan, not Giovanni.
And as far as her traveling to Giovanni, Catherine went to Giovanni, are we with what in the car and for what purpose?
It's a level of speculation, right? We don't know that for sure. I don't know that. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, she's no longer alive. She can't attest to it. But I think when we see that the last person she spoke to, that the brother said she was delivering money and other stuff to a friend, the path that she was traveling was a path towards their residence, I think that you can only assume that that's probably where. But that's my hunch, right? We don't know that for sure right now.
Is there anything in
I
her...
want to come back to the timeline. You say that the Acura Green was getting to the truck on March 19, and after that was released. How this car was released? Because it wasn't even registered. Someone paid to get it out? How that worked for that Acura?
You talking about the first time it was towed from an Orange County?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know the circumstances. That part of the investigation is in the Orange County Sheriff's Office lane, and although there is a nexus and connection here, they're the most informed authority to speak on that. I don't know the circumstances of when the vehicle was released. Sometimes when vehicles are towed for whatever reason through a tow contract of an apartment complex, they're looking for somebody to come and get it out. And when somebody presents themselves with money and pays it out, they typically release it. And what these folks typically were doing is sending somebody that may or may not be directly connected to offer whatever cost and fee it is to get the car out. But I don't know the answer to that question.
You learned any more about the time it took for the victim to get to Osceola County, obviously, and that's where you found that car, the burned car. What happened in that time frame? Any more about that timeline?
So the timeline between the kidnapping and arriving in Orange County is a pretty tight timeline. It's about an hour and 45 minutes or so. and with rush hour traffic, it's not that unrealistic to have that commute take potentially maybe even an hour or so. But we think that the route was direct. Some evidence and records are coming back to kind of prove that. Some of those records have come in. We know that the route that we said, traveling, making the U-turn, getting up to Tuscaloosa Road, traveling south on Tuscaloosa Road, getting on 417 by cutting over traffic, getting on 417 southbound has been confirmed by records. Likely getting off at Narcoossee Road, traveling down to Boggy Creek. How long they were at the location, we don't know at the time because that location was off. So it may, in all intents and purposes, been a direct route there, and then any time delay between the report of guns fired and the flames or smoke from the vehicle was just the time that they were there. So again, that will come out further in the investigation when we get information.
As far as your investigation has,
We'll go here. I'm not going anywhere, so we got plenty of time. So.
as far as your investigation has revealed, anything in Catherine's background or husband's background that shows any history of drug dealing or any involvement in anything like this?
So not that we have access to right now. I will reshape the husband and brother's involvement. I said that they were cooperating at first. Husband is no longer cooperating with us. And the brother has been crossed up in multiple lies with our detectives. So to shape that they're cooperating would not be accurate. So they are no longer cooperating. The husband is not cooperating at all. And the brother feels like he's cooperating, but he's telling us lies. So again, that will be a part of the investigation that's ongoing. We'll continue to look at that.
Sheriff, Jordanis is a suspect now about in the Catherine's case.
Say it again.
Jordanis is a suspect now. Jordanis is a suspect now.
Yes. Let's call him a strong suspect. He's the guy with the gun committing the crime. And I think that when we release that photograph with somebody in the Facebook wearing the exact same clothes as the person on the scene, I think that most people that saw that video said, yeah, you don't have to be the sharpest detective to know that it's likely this guy. But now with records putting him back at that location at that time, we're confident it's him. So again, at the scene of the carjacking, right, it's Kivo and Jordan. That's there.
And with Jordanish and Kevin, do we know if they're associates with Giovanni? Sorry if that was already touched on.
Or associates with any known organization.
Look, I think all these folks are connected together, right? But what we can prove will come out in evidence that is going to be released to us. And then probably as we shift now to the federal part of this investigation, the federal authorities will be taking the lead on this with our assistance and participation. But I think this entire group is absolutely connected. And from the activities, probably not the first time that they've been involved in criminal activity and committing crimes.
So I just want to understand very well this information. So you say the brother is, you're catching the brother lying sometimes. So is a possibility that Giovanni is not the last person that she spoke? So in the FaceTime is actually Catherine on the screenshot? I just want to confirm that information.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're pretty confident that Giovanni was the last person that she had communication with because the timeline is pretty tight there. So we think that he's truthful about that. But even when he sent us the initial screenshot, we're talking about Lewis, the brother, when he sent us the screenshot, he screenshotted it and edited it to the point where his photograph was out of it and sent that to us. It was the forensic examination of his cell phone that he gave to us where we had the opportunity to look at the original image with his photograph in there. So, but he's lying to us. You know, we've been able to cross him up in multiple lies. He's helping initially to a certain extent, but he's telling us a whole lot of lies that we have to kind of go through. He could be a lot more cooperative.
So that screenshot is Luis and Giovanni, no Catherine and Giovanni.
Correct. Correct.
And as far as other players kind of involved in this, I forgot the gentleman's name, but the Orange County deputy, is there any update as to how he kind of plays in and ties into this?
So again, nothing new on the Orange County deputy. We're continuing to work that side of it. Obviously, we want his records on his work computer access to the database like the David system where he found those unique characteristics about our detective. We want to know what his phone records look like, communicating back and forth. So again, we have not received those records back, but nothing new with the Orange County deputy or that part of this investigation. Okay? So again, sorry for any confusion. I think I've clarified kind of where we're at with this, but again, this is a lot of moving parts to this, and thank you all for getting the word out there. The second part of our news conference here, and absolutely not related to what we just briefed on at all, is the conclusion of a 6-month investigation into a drug operation here in Seminole County and throughout Central Florida. Now, you've heard me talk quite a bit about all of the things that we're doing to make sure that we can navigate people down a path towards recovery. We've got this unique relationship with Advent Health for the Hope and Healing. I think that we've been ambassadors with the support of the governor and the legislature to make sure that more people get access to the life-saving drug naloxone, either Narcan or Cloxato, to reverse the effects of that. And we've seen some of those numbers come down as a result. Year to date in Seminole County, we've had 139 overdoses or poisonings. That is a 37% decrease on what we were experiencing at the same time last year. We've also had 26 deaths, which is a 19% reduction of where we're at. And we've had an 81% increase in citizens deploying naloxone. We've worked with the governor and the legislature to make sure that we have new laws on the books that hold drug dealers accountable to the fullest extent of the law. And in Seminole County, we've prosecuted 35 people with first-degree murder charges, and we've added some new charges for people dealing drugs, and we revive them with Narcan. We can now hold them accountable for second-degree felony culpable negligence for dealing those drugs. A lot of movement. And I've said that you cannot arrest your way out of this problem, but you can definitely make a significant dent in what's going on by having the laws on the books and having a team of individuals that will enforce and hold the bad guys responsible to the fullest extent of the law. So that's where the City County Investigative Bureau comes in. CCIB, as we call it, is a multi-agency task force consisting of members of our Seminole County municipalities and, of course, members of the Sheriff's Office here. They are working largely in an undercover position, looking at narcotics investigation, vice crimes, all of these things that we talk about quite a bit, but you don't see a whole lot of what they're doing until today. There are 4 agencies in Seminole County who have active participants in CCIB, and that's the Altamont Springs Police Department, Lake Mary Police Department, Longwood Police Department, and the Sanford Police Department. There are several major players that I'm going to talk about that were a part of the people responsible for the guns that are on the screen that are being held by FDLE, the guns that are on the table, and the money and drugs that you see, which are all clearly packaged, although you can smell them in here. There is no threat because we have fentanyl and other things, again, properly packaged, and they're absolutely no threat to anyone here. The first person we're going to introduce you to is Floyd Akins. Floyd is a 33-year-old two-time felon that we had learned that he was dealing in drug sales and gun sales in Seminole County. Now, when we hear of somebody involved in guns and drug sales in Seminole County, what we aggressively do is work to intercept that, many times by introducing one of our undercovers into that operation to infiltrate that. Again, he is the ringleader of this group, Floyd Akins. Over a 6-month period, we purchased $160,000 worth of guns and drugs from Floyd. We purchased from him 24 different times, resulting in 4 pounds of fentanyl, or according to the DEA, enough fentanyl to kill 8.5 million people, or the entire population of New York City. 3 pounds of black and brown tar heroin, 5 pounds of methamphetamine, 4.5 pounds of Molly, a half a pound of cocaine, 14 grams of xylazine, 200 grams of marijuana, and then 10 guns. A lot of the guns are stolen guns or guns that have passed through the hands of a lot of bad people over the years. In total, 23 firearms were taken off the street, either seized or purchased from these dealers. 3 machine guns, 11 rifles, and then 9 individual handguns. All of those weapons are on display either on the table or in the video that is up right now. Now, Governor DeSantis and our Florida legislative body, with the assistance of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, made operations like this a heck of a lot easier. And we have Assistant Commissioner from FDLA, Lee Massey, that's here, and I'm sure that he would be happy to entertain any interviews at the conclusion of this news conference. But through the state assistance for fentanyl eradication, there was $20 million that were earmarked to help local agencies combat this growing and horrible trend. This investigation will be completely funded through that partnership with FDLE and the state of Florida. We've already received reimbursement for nearly $40,000 based upon that partnership, and I'm sure that Lee would be happy to entertain any questions at the conclusion of this news brief. Next person that I want to introduce you to is Terrence Perkins, 43-year-old convicted drug trafficker. He is a major part of this operation. We conducted a search warrant at his home earlier this year, which yielded 18.5 kilos of cocaine. Now, we talk about kilos. I understand people watching may not know what kilos are. Kilo is basically 2.2 pounds. This is more than 40 pounds of cocaine at his particular home. In addition to that, 10 guns were recovered as a part of that search warrant. At least one of those firearms was used in a Volusia County suicide and a 2019 shooting in the city of Sanford. Again, significant seizure of the operations that was going on there. Next person is Anthony Guanciale, and he goes by Tony. And this guy's got a record a mile long. I mean, he's been at it a very, very long time. What's interesting about this 46-year-old Tony is he's heavily involved in this organization, but also is being charged with conspiracy to commit murder after he tried to pay an inmate at the Appalachia State Correctional Facility $500 and various contraband to murder somebody who had a drug debt to him and this organization. And that, again, is something that's an ongoing investigation. We're working with the warden and the executive staff at the Appalachia State Correctional Facility, as well as the Jackson County Sheriff's Office in that regard. I mentioned contraband, which basically contraband is when illegal things are entered into a correctional facility. But what Tony was doing with 2 people from Central Florida is they were arranging for contraband to be moved to the Appalachia Correctional Facility and actually use this drone tied with a bag to drop items on the inside secure area of the correctional facility. Now, because of this investigation, we intercepted the attempt to do that. The 2 people that were charged with this at the prison were facing charge, possession of controlled substances, and attempt to introduce contraband into a correctional facility. But let me tell you what Tony and his friends were putting inside this bag to try to enter into the correctional facility. 9 cell phones with charging cables, 5 SIM cards to use in the prison computers and tablets that they use for their classes, 5 SIM cards, 1 mobile hotspot, 48 grams of bath salts, 85 Suboxone strips, 2 pounds of tobacco, and a variety of razors are all put into this bag, flown in this drone, and then dropped inside of the correctional facility for the inmates to have free access to contraband. We've been working with the state prison system the warden of that particular facility, and the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. But I don't need to tell anybody who's watching this how incredibly dangerous and alarming that is. This investigation helped us intercept that and make sure that that never made it on the inside of the facility. God knows how many times they've been successful in the past, but this time they were not successful. Next person that we want to introduce you to is Antoine Davis, 43-year-old UPS manager in Longwood. How convenient is that to serve as a manager of a local UPS store, because when the fraudulent addresses that were being listed on the drugs that were being sent in, he would intercept the packages, never get it to a driver making delivery, and actually deliver it himself. So he's the manager of UPS, working in this drug trafficking organization, intercepting the packages and delivering those packages themselves. In total, 33 arrest warrants. 20 of those individuals are in custody now. 13 are outstanding. We will ask for the public's assistance on the 13 that are outstanding, and we'll make sure that that is clear. But here's a list of the people who we're trying to locate it now. They're wanted as a part of this ongoing in-depth investigation that I'm talking about right now. We also simultaneously executed 6 search warrants this morning, 5 in Seminole County, 1 in Orange County. Again, a significant collaboration and partnership. I can't underscore the importance of that enough. Both with the kidnapping murder investigation we're working, as well as this case right now. The folks that work in CCIB, these are just absolute superstars that are working around the clock, that because of the nature of their position, they get no recognition, they get no fame, they get no thanks, and any name that they would give you is not their real name anyway. So again, they are incredibly passionate about taking bad guys to jail and do a heck of a job doing it. Various sections and departments within the Seminole County Sheriff's Office also participate to help support an operation like this, as well as our city agencies throughout Seminole County. All 7 municipalities and their teams work hard to make this happen. The State Attorney's Office, the 18th Judicial Circuit. We are incredibly grateful that we have a judicial circuit that will actually prosecute drug dealers and people for doing harmful things in our community. And I think that everybody knows that typically this isn't our style of laying out guns and laying out drugs, but I think it is incredibly important for the public and others to know exactly what we're dealing with when we talk about the importance of advocate, the importance to hold drug dealers accountable. Like, this is a room full of drugs and weapons and all of that, and I think that everyone in here knows this is a glimpse of what is occurring across the country every single day. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, who has always been such a great partner and again, great friend to us, Assistant Commissioner Massey in the back, but all of the FDLE folks that work in harmony with us. The Orange County Sheriff's Office and Volusia County Sheriff's Office, again, great partners in contiguous areas that helped us execute search warrants today. The DEA, unique partnership with the DEA, the long arm of the law, and some of the things that we've done, not only with enforcement, but advocacy. DEA has always been our partners in the trenches with us, and we're grateful for that. And for this operation, ATF and the U.S. Marshals. But again, a lot of people coming together to do great work. And as you can see, a room full of drugs that are now taken off the streets, a lot of money that is used in the illicit drug trade, a lot of weapons. You've got some weapons that are fully automatic weapons. I mean, you look at these things, these got tumblers and magazines and incredibly, incredibly dangerous weapons. And I think that the most significant thing is taking the bad guys off the street, making sure that they're charged, they're held accountable, and they're prosecuted and not out there committing these crimes. 6-month investigation, a lot of success with it, but I think that anybody who looks at this knows that our work continues. So with that, I'll open for any questions about this particular investigation. Okay. Again, thank you for the partnership. Again, thank you to FDLE for funding this. That program is absolutely wonderful. And then what we'll do is on the update, on the Aguas Vivas case, we'll make sure that we provide whatever we can in writing and let you know where that goes. I will say that at this point, who we feel the dangerous people who are involved in that case are now off the streets. And I think that when we saw this video, we knew the significance of it. Our main charge at that time was to get these dangerous people off the streets as quickly as we could. And I want to just take another moment to thank our detectives and investigators and partners for that, because they were able to make this case, or at least a good portion of this case, before any form of evidence came in, any records, anything. It was good police work that tracked down suspects and individuals. This started with a green vehicle with no identifiable tag and a person wearing a hood, and resulted in a little more than a week with what appears to be all parties off the street before an overwhelming amount of the records can even come back. In this particular case, the records are being used to support our investigative strategies and efforts, not the other way around. And I think that that's nothing short of remarkable, and I'm incredibly proud of our team to be able to do that. So.
Sheriff, circling back to the drug case, I did want to ask, what tipped you off to that beginning, that 6-month case?
So, we hear in the community. Our undercover units are plugged in with the community. They hear and they run in circles where bad guys would run and talk. And what bad guys like to do is they like to brag. So a little bit of bad guys beating their chest make these things identifiable to us. And that's where the police work of trying to intercept and get somebody within that. So it really just started as a minor conversation out in the community, and then a follow-up on our part. It would be so easy not to follow up on half the things that we hear, but following up yields good, positive rewards when it comes to that. Thank you, guys.